Hi guys, it's Terry, and I hope that you can hear this because I'm trying to speak fairly quietly because it is, according to the stove clock, 2:53. I am in the kitchen of my house, my childhood home. It used to be my mom and dad's house. Now it's mine and Bill's, which is really cool. And I am here to talk to you about World Mental Health Day. I'm 2 hours and 53 minutes late in doing that, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be talked about. I probably didn't do a video about it earlier because I was dealing with some sort of mental health issue. Mental health issues are very important to me because they have played a big role in my family, particularly my dad's side of the family. My dad has suffered with depression and anxiety untreated for most of his life. Toward the end of his life, he was on Paxil, but for most of his life, untreated. And he had a lot of things going on in his life that he could have used the treatment and didn't get it. And that is a shame. Back then, mental health issues weren't addressed. If you had a mental health issue, it meant that you were lesser or worse. There were mental hospitals, but they weren't around, and I don't think the Tri-Cities had any at that time, certainly. So my dad did what a lot of people do in that situation, and he self-medicated. He began to drink, and he became an alcoholic. A third-generation addicted person. And some of his mental health problems got passed down to me. There is a lot of data to indicate or to suggest that things like depression and addiction do run in families, that there's some sort of genetic element to it. And since I'm my dad in every other way, might as well be this way too. I had my first big depressive episode when I was about 23. It happened when I lived in North Carolina. Some of the people that I had been close to moved away, and I wasn't really happy there anyway. I was struggling, and I just felt like I had nobody. I felt like I was worthless. I felt really, really detached from everything, and I didn't really know what was happening to me, because even though I have always struggled with thinking maybe I wasn't good enough, I've always been very driven to be the best because I thought that's what I needed to be. I had never really been that depressed, and so that was kind of new for me. And I wound up moving back home, not for that reason, for another reason. And I managed to get through that. And then in 2007, it hit again. Now, I had been, since that time, or actually since before that, when I was in the hospital for an eating disorder, I was put on medication for depression, Prozac, which was very popular back at that time. And it worked very well for me. It's probably what kept me alive through the deal in North Carolina. In 2006, I was placed on another antidepressant that would have worked better with, they thought, my fibromyalgia. They thought they could kill two birds with one stone by putting me on Cymbalta. It took a while for me to realize that Cymbalta wasn't working. When an antidepressant stops working and when a depressive episode is beginning, you don't just wake up one day depressed. That's not the way it works. It's kind of an insidious creeping factor. It just sort of, things start happening. And before I knew it, I found myself in 2007 more or less bedridden. Bill had to go quit my job for me. I couldn't even get out of bed to do that. I was completely and totally immobilized. And at that point, Chelsea was actually a very easy child to care for. She always has been. Like a lot of autistic children, she loves routine and she likes rules. Give her those and you're good to go. But then later, in about 2012, I guess, Chelsea began to develop her own mental issues with obsessive compulsive disorder. There's a lot of misconception about OCD. A lot of people think that it is something that happens and you go around and you clean things obsessively, or you can't stand for things to be out of order, and that's true. Or you count things over and over, and all of those are manifestations of OCD. But Chelsea has the one that I think is probably the most insidious of all, and that's intrusive thoughts. She is barraged almost continuously with thoughts about herself, thoughts about Bill and me, thoughts about whether or not we love her, whether she's worth anything, whether she should even be here or not. She cannot watch anything with any hint of violence in it. We don't know on any daily basis what's going to trigger her. It could be a television show. It could be a commercial. The side effects on medicine commercials trigger her. We've had to leave a restaurant because it just didn't feel right. We've had to leave a movie because it became too violent. She deals with this 24/7. And 9 times out of 10, I'm in a good enough place where I can help her deal with it. But in 2014, end of 2013, and I should have known something was wrong then because I wasn't that excited about Christmas. And anyone who knows me knows, whoa, Christmas. Terry is all about the Christmas. By the time January rolled around, I wasn't wanting to get out of bed. I wasn't wanting to take a shower. I wasn't wanting to get dressed. I began to have thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore. But the good news is that this time it had happened enough times that I understood what was going on. And I talked to Bill, who has always been so super supportive of me and Chelsea. I know you guys think he's the big guy, and he is in some ways. But when it comes to his girls, he will move mountains and he will do anything. And he is the most understanding guy on the planet. And I told him what was going on. And I went to my doctor. My doctor sent me to a psychiatric nurse practitioner, who is somebody who is a nurse practitioner that has specifically studied psychiatric issues, not to the point of being a psychiatrist, but has learned about the medications, learned about the signs of the illness, that sort of thing. And she gave me a very, very common assessment called the Beck Depression Inventory. And I had learned about it in my studies. And I took it, and I was just a few points away from her putting me in the hospital. And I think the only reason that she didn't strongly suggest it was because I told her I needed to be there for Chelsea. But I did start seeing her, and I saw her not only for my medication, but I also saw her when she was actually a really good talk therapist, even though that wasn't necessarily her licensure. And I began to come back, slowly but surely. I did quit that semester of school. I had gone consecutive semesters. Liberty has 3 semesters. They have a spring, a fall, or spring, a summer, and a fall. Pretty much school never quits, except for at the Christmas time, you get like 2.5 weeks, I think, between semesters. There are some semesters that you get like 2 days in between. And I had been going continuously up until this point. And I knew I couldn't keep doing that. I was tired, and I was frustrated, and I was trying to get better. And I, for the first time, was honest with my friends and people around me about what was going on. Some of them were really surprised. My family, I think, my mom was surprised because I was always Terry Happy. When I cried when I was a kid, she'd say, "Where's Happy?" I'm like, "Happy just smashed her thumb in a door. Happy is on vacation." But she always kind of saw me as happy and happy-go-lucky. And for the most part, I am. I have a wicked sense of humor, and I'm not afraid to use it. And a wicked sense of sarcasm. And it's not so much a coping skill as it is just me. It's just who I am. So when I told my friends that I was dealing with this, they were kind of shocked because I try very hard to be there for my friends. You knock on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to let you in and we're going to talk. We'll have coffee and we're going to talk about what's going on. And so sometimes when you're that person, when you're that go-to, that fixer person, people are surprised when you have your own issues. As I've always said, who does Dear Abby talk to? Who does Dear Abby write to when she has a problem? Nobody writes to her. Well, I wound up talking to this person, this nurse practitioner. I can't even remember her name. Isn't that sad? Because I moved and didn't keep in touch with her. But I do have a very good nurse practitioner right now, and I'm very pleased with her. And she has adjusted my medication recently when I started seeing me going downhill again, and things are going very well. And I tell you my story to tell you that you do not know what is going on in another person's head, because those of us who have depression or an eating disorder or really any other mental disorder, unless it is something that presents itself in such a drastic way, like schizophrenia or some forms of bipolar or some forms of borderline, then a lot of times it just goes unhidden and undetected because we get really good at masking it. We don't want to let people down. We already feel bad enough about ourselves. We don't want anyone to know that we aren't handling things very well. That would just make us feel worse, especially if we think that you're someone that depends on us. If you're a family member, if you're a close friend, if you're someone who has been mentoring someone or supporting someone in some way, you can't possibly have any problems of your own, because that would just, that person wouldn't want you to be their mentor anymore, wouldn't want you to be their friend anymore. They don't want that. Well, of course, none of that's true, but when you're in a depressive state, you can think of virtually nothing good to say about yourself. It takes you or your own worst critic to a huge place. And it's very difficult. I've had to watch myself very carefully since Mom died. I have had a lot of guilt that maybe I didn't do enough to help take care of her. I felt torn between taking care of her and taking care of Chelsea. I was concerned that Tracy wasn't getting the support she needed in taking care of her. And of course, I was just grieving Mom's loss. Anyone who knew my mom was a force of nature. I called her June Cleaver on steroids. Oh, my eyes are blue. Okay, sorry. Shiny. And I saw myself starting to head that way. And I understand now. I see the signs. So I'm going to tell you some of those signs to see if you recognize them in yourself or if you recognize them in someone else. And then we'll talk a little bit about maybe something you can do. The signs are, like I said, that they come on slowly. You don't see them overnight. The brain doesn't work that way. And one of the first signs is disinterest. Things that used to excite you don't excite you. Things that you used to jump at the chance to do, you don't really care about anymore. I love to go out for coffee with my friends. Everyone knows that. When I'm in a depressive state, I don't want to go out for coffee. Yeah, you come to me, and if I'm awake, I'll talk to you. Because that's another thing. Another thing that is an early sign of depression is sleep disturbances. And they can go one of two ways, or they can go both. With me, it's a back and forth thing. You either can't sleep because you're thinking of all the bad things in your life and the bad things about yourself, and you're worrying about everything. Or all you want to do is sleep, because when you're asleep, you get away. You don't have to think about anything. You can just be away. It's one of the reasons I used to drink until I figured out that when I sobered up, everything was still there. And so, yeah, I figured out that was not the best way to medicate, because it didn't change anything, except that I had a rip-roaring headache in the morning. I always had very bad hangovers, which probably was a good thing. That was God slapping me on the wrist saying, wake up. So disinterest, sleep disturbances, eating disturbances. Mine actually go from eating everything that doesn't have a soul or a heartbeat. That's the first part. And then the second part is I just don't eat. I don't eat at all. I'm not interested in food. I'm not interested in anything. The next thing that you'll see happening, and this is where most people start catching it. Most people start realizing that there's something wrong either with themselves or something wrong with someone they know. It becomes impossible to do the simplest things, and I mean the simplest things. Taking a shower is like climbing the Matterhorn. Changing your clothes is a big deal. Cleaning your house, forget that. I can't even clean myself. Why would I clean my house? Day-to-day functional things begin to fall apart. You don't want to do anything but stay in your bedroom. I called it my island. My bed was my island, and I wanted to stay on my island because I just didn't have any interest in leaving my island. And you don't want to do anything. Nothing. Shopping, forget that. If I hadn't been married, we would starve to death. Nothing. You just want to do nothing. And that's, like I said, when most people start beginning to see something wrong with the person, another person, or themselves. And the last thing that starts to happen is that you just wonder why you're here. It's too hard to be here. I don't want to be here anymore. And that thought just keeps rolling around and rolling around. And it is bolstered by all these other things that are happening. You can't clean your house, so what good are you? You can't even take a shower and look nice for people, so what good are you? You can't go out with your friends. Why would your friends want to be friends with you if you won't go out with them? And if you can't do any of these things, why are you even here? And that's the point where things get dangerous. That's the point where if you're the person experiencing it, that's all of these other things have been warning signs. This is your big giant bell that should be ringing in your head now, that it's time to do something. It's time to get help. Because you deserve that. It's very hard for you to see that at that moment. Sometimes somebody else usually needs to tell you. In my case, it was Bill. Bill reiterated to me that he didn't want to be without me, that I was important to him. He reiterated to me that Chelsea needed me and that I didn't need to leave her. And he reiterated to me mostly, and this was most important, because people need to stick around for themselves, not because someone else wants them there. That's a quick fix that usually doesn't work. I began to realize that I had things to offer. Now, this is the point where if you're not a person of faith, I don't really know where you go. Clearly, people do get over depression when they're not a person of faith, but this is the point where, for me, the rubber meets the road where my faith is concerned. Because if God had wanted me dead, I would have died, and not by my own hand. He would have arranged it some way. So clearly, I am not done yet. I have a purpose. I have a reason to be here. I have people to help, things to do. It's not time. It's just not time. And I don't think it's ever time if it's by your own hand. If you don't believe in God, then you can call it nature or fate or destiny or whatever you want to. But your leaving this planet will be taken care of in some way when it's time. I personally just feel like God has more for me to do. And so that is the thing that keeps me focused and keeps me centered. And I also, because of my belief in God, I know God doesn't make mistakes. So I'm here, and there's a reason. If there wasn't a reason for me to be here, then being here would be a mistake. And that's not the way I think, not the way I believe. So, logically, and I am a logic person. I'm a huge logic person, because you can be a logical person and a person of faith. Oh, surprise, go tell your friends. Okay. I am a logical person, and so when I start putting these things together and they start falling into place for me, I begin to realize that there's a life out there, and there are good things in that life, and I need to go live it. I've got stuff to do. That can be a very difficult place to come to. You don't get depressed overnight, and you don't get undepressed overnight. Not even close. It takes a long time to get back. I have compared it to stepping out into the sunshine, which is kind of funny considering I'm a night owl. But it's kind of like you leave your bedroom, you go into the living room, you step out on the front porch, you take one step down into the yard, and then all of a sudden you're in the sunshine. But it's not a quick trip. It happens in stages. And sometimes you stay in your living room for, a little while, and then you're able to move to the porch, and, you may stay on the porch, and of course this is metaphorically I'm speaking. You may stay on the porch for a month before you take that first step down. And it takes a while because depression takes everything you ever doubted about yourself and blows it up to enormous proportions. And the reason I'm recording this at now 3:14 in the morning, I mean, no, Facebook will let me post something this long. If I get cut off, well, whatever, is that I wanted to talk freely to you guys when no one was listening. A lot of times we censor ourselves when someone else is listening, and I didn't want to do that. I still have moments of depression, not major depressive episodes like the ones I've described to you, because those last. A major depressive episode has to go on for at least 2 weeks, and mine have gone on for months. If you're just feeling down one day, you're not having a major depressive episode. You can even experience a death and not have a major depressive episode. If you bounce back, you go through your stages of grief in a fairly normal way, and you process. Of course, you're going to be sad, you're going to feel loss, but it doesn't necessarily have to trigger a major depressive episode. To be very honest with you, my mother's death has not triggered a major depressive episode for me. I did start seeing some signs of depression. But just maybe knowing some of these signs, listening to some of these things. Now, I'm not making a video specifically about being suicidal. There are other signs that start to become more evident when you get to that step. And maybe I'll talk about that at some point. I don't really feel like I've ever been that close to that. I've thought about it, but I have never made an active attempt. So I may not be the best person to speak about that necessarily. I might make another video just about my eating disorder, because that's a whole episode in and of itself. But I just want to talk to you guys about the importance of mental health, the importance of paying attention to each other, listening to each other. A lot of times people who are struggling give all kinds of clues, but people don't know what to listen for, don't know what to look for. Now, it's a little bit of what was behind this video specifically. So that's World Mental Health Day, or it was yesterday. I'm not sure why it doesn't take place during Mental Health Awareness Month, which is May, but who am I to question? So I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing well, thank you. And I will see you guys later. I gotta find my mouse so I can click this off now. You guys take care. Bye-bye.